found out from Lynn McDowell. She told me how excited I must be that you finally decided to grow up.
First of all, I resent that.
Who's Lynn McDowell?
My old friend, Samantha's mum. Samantha's one of the ones that you decided to get in touch with. Behind me back.
I see.
One of the ones that I don't stay in touch with. Because I no longer like them.
Oh, she does really. You know what girls are like.
I said I'm sorry.
I'm glad I'm not the only one getting it.
I thought I was doing something nice.
Oh, love, welcome to the Daisyverse. We all thought we were doing something nice.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
Hello and welcome to episode 239 of The Talk of the Street, an unofficial Coronation Street catch-up podcast that thinks that no matter how pleased you were to see D.S. Swain return this week, you weren't as pleased as we were to see D.S. Swain return this week. I'm Gavin.
And I may be an accessory to murder.
Oh, how? What?
Do you even know who you're sleeping next to at night?
This is all turning into a Ryan Johnson disappointingly written movie.
I thought you were going to talk about neither one of us has seen Poker Face yet, so
I've
was
heard
really
good things
confused.
about it.
I have heard good things as well.
Yes.
Because I love Ryan Johnson, and I
Apart
love
from
that.
his Star Wars stuff.
I love his Star Wars stuff. That's one of the best Star Wars movies out there.
That's a very popular opinion.
It is amongst certain circles.
Is it?
Yeah, circles I circle in.
Okay. Anyway, you've
And
killed
also,
somebody.
I love Natasha Lyonne. I may be an accessory to murder. I sold a doll.
You may be an accessory to murder.
Right, because
Okay.
it hasn't happened yet. Because I just dropped the box off earlier today.
What's in the box?
What's in the box?
I feel like we did this better the first time.
What's in the box? This is not the first time we've shouted "What's in the box" today.
No.
God,
Nor will it be the last.
I feel like we used that
I need closure
a lot.
on the murder thing.
Yesterday, I sold a 100-year-old doll for a lot of money. It's got some mileage on it. It's a rare doll.
Creepy as fuck.
And the person who bought it from me, I was delighted. And then the person who bought it from me messaged me and said, you don't have to worry about wrapping it up too well.
Excellent.
Because I plan on taking the head off of this doll and giving it a new head when it gets here.
To be fair, that doll looked like it needed a new head.
I loved its head that it had already. It was so expressive. It was one of my favorite dolls.
Yes, it was expressing creepiness.
That's
it was
the
kind
one.
of evil Knanek, wasn't it?
That's the one that was sitting in the dining room at the dining room table for months.
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't have the heart to sell it because I loved it so much.
Mm.
And I don't typically feel that way about my dolls.
It's not really a house, is it? It's just a storage unit for your shit.
It's typically a one and done thing, but I took my time with him because it was a boy doll.
Okay, of course.
He was wearing suspenders or braces if you're so inclined.
Mm-hmm. And I am.
So I'm just so horrified that I have sent this doll off to his doom.
You made money. You'll get over it.
I'm so glad I got my confession out. I feel so much better. I feel so much better for it. How was your
You are
week?
looking so much lighter as a
Yes.
result of it.
Well, that's because I've unbuttoned my shirt a little bit
Oh,
more.
well.
So. Oh.
It's a bit early in the podcast for that.
How was your week?
It was all right. We broke 1 million views on YouTube this week.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. You'd
We
think
still
that
can't
they said-
monetize though,
no,
can we?
No.
Fuck YouTube. Honestly.
Too many copyright claims for my superb cuts.
Which makes us did you put the DS Swain thing on?
Oh, no. That's just a wee 30-second thing. It's not worth it.
They have YouTube Shorts now.
Oh, they do.
can put them on YouTube
Yeah, but
Shorts.
it's in portrait. And this is very much widescreen landscape.
Right, yeah. So you can see RoboCop.
Right. And the alligator.
Right.
And Starsky and Hutch.
Yes.
And a clip from the Sabotage video by the Beastie Boys. all as a homage
To D.S. Swain.
to the wonder that is D.S. Swain, wonderfully portrayed by Vicky Myers.
Yes.
Please feel free to take a look on the Twitter.
Yes. It's great.
That's good fun.
Yes.
I had a
Yes.
lot of fun making
You
that.
are very talented at what you do.
Well, see, one of the story editors of Coronation Street liked it and complimented me on it.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, if I keep this up, somebody's going to offer me a job, aren't they? That can then obviously turn down.
Why would you turn it down?
Money. Nobody's going to pay me enough money.
Yeah, but if you're doing something you love, wouldn't it be worth...
Selling the
Taking
house
a
and
pay
living
cut.
in a box. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we wouldn't have to live in a box.
I feel like this is a conversation to have offline. No, I'm
Follow your dreams, Broom. Follow
you
your
can
dreams.
achieve your goals. I am living proof.
Yes.
Shall we preamble, my dear?
Yes, please.
Give us some of that motivational Corrie news.
Seems like she just got back. And yet, Maureen Lipman is taking another break from the show.
Just
She is bringing her one-woman show, Rose, to the West End. Bravo to her.
is she going on a tour with it? I thought she was going on a tour with it, or did I read something wrong?
Maybe, I don't know. This is her one-woman show about the Holocaust.
Yep.
That she has already performed to sold-out audiences at Hope Mill in Manchester and the Park Theatre in London.
London.
What the hell, Maureen? What the hell? Just
Well,
see, that's a person who's following her dreams. Be more like Maureen Lipman,
I'm sure she's
except when you go to lunch.
made more than enough money
Yeah.
to be able to afford to chase her dreams like this.
Well, I suppose. And her kids are all grown.
How long is she out for? I thought it was like a year.
God, that would be too long.
Yeah, you're right. It does seem like she's just come back, and then we've kind of been grateful for her to come back, and then
Right.
she's going to go away again.
Does she?
I wonder what message is she given with this? Do you think?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It's like, well, why is she coming back? Because it doesn't seem like she enjoys it. That she'd rather be doing theater, and that's fine. That's fine. Just be honest with us. Stop breaking our heart.
It's just a very well loved character played by a bit of a
well-loved
Nash
person.
Tresh.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh well.
Oh well.
We will look forward to her
Maybe
return again.
maybe they can get you to fill her shoes and be like Tyrone's long lost Scottish cousin or something on the show, and move in and kill
Are
chinchillas.
those the options? Nobody or me. I think they'll go with nobody. And who can blame them?
And you can bring more shirts to Tyrone. You can have matching MSU Spartans t-shirts. Would be delightful.
Are you feeling okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Helen Worth and her fringe took a wee jaunt to Windsor Castle to pick up an MBE from Prince William for services to drama. She was so adorable.
She's either tiny or he's enormous.
She's so toty next to him.
Mm-hmm.
It's so cute in her little black suit with her little black hat.
She reminded me of my mum
Yes.
quite a bit.
Yes.
Just toty.
So toty.
Toty wee woman.
Toty. Everybody in the Platt family's toty except for Nick. They're all short.
Mm-hmm.
He towers over everybody else in that family. Thank God they brought Adam in to be another tall person in that family.
It does mean that they have to move the cameras every now and again to make sure that they get the top of his head. Although this week, maybe they should have just left the camera where it was, if you know what I mean.
Are you man bun shaming
I
again?
am indeed. That was like years ago, wasn't it? Is that still a thing?
I think it's still a thing.
Anyway, we shall mock that later.
Okay. And finally, it was just weird that he didn't have it earlier in the week and then all of a sudden he had it.
Exactly.
Okay. And finally, you may have noticed Corrie wasn't on tonight. That's
As
because
we record on Friday.
right, yes, that's because I wish you had told me. We couldn't have done it last night
We couldn't
because I
have,
was
and that's why I didn't tell you.
gone until 9:30 at night because of stupid bowling and stupid guitar lessons.
Right.
Because I love my stupid children.
Chase your dreams, kids.
As the damned footy once again got in the way of our stories. How dare it?
Manchester City versus Arsenal. I believe Man City won.
Oh,
I don't care.
me neither. It was on Thursday instead. Coronation Street was. So if you didn't watch on Thursday, you missed it. No, I'm just kidding. You can watch it on the ITV player or BritBox or whatever it's called.
Really? Are you feeling okay?
And that's Corrie News.
Splendid. And now let's podcast for coffee. Thanks to Coastal News Podcast.
Coastal News Podcast, you say?
Si and Sophie, thank you so much for our coffees this week. They're like, hi guys, as you know, we love your show and race to catch it after a week on the cobbles. Have a coffee on us from Si and Sophie. Thank you so
Thanks,
much
guys.
to them. And as,
We love them.
As threatened, that's my Saturday listening, which means it's
Those are our pals.
everyone's Saturday listening when we're driving about. You're welcome. And as I'd threatened last week, I've got this hospital bag that's kind of full of books. It is now one book later.
Ooh.
As I send a copy of the Scottish Book of the Dead over the seas to merry old England.
And how much did that put you back?
To sit on someone's bookshelf in gather dust. $20, I think.
Did you pay that already? Did you ship it?
Yeah, it's gone.
Okay. Next time, let me know because I can get it shipped cheaper.
Yeah, okay. Good to know.
Because my back channels that murder dolls.
It's handy. It's
It is
handy to know
handy.
someone who murders dolls.
Yes.
Yeah, so we're now down to 6 of these books left. So if you want to buy us a coffee as a thank you, I'm prepared to send a book
To you.
to anywhere in the world. That's my commitment. But anyway,
Yes.
the Talk of the Street is and always will be free on your podcast provider and on the YouTubes. But if you think our show is worth anything more than the time it takes to listen to it, and if you want to show your appreciation, you can buy us next week's coffee, pick up a free book by going to ko-fi.com, that's ko-fi.com/The Talk of the Street, and we'll be very appreciative, just like we were for Coastal News Podcast with Si and Sophie.
Si and Sophie!
If you're a fan of Home and Away, or if you're like me who watched it when you were a kid,
Right.
it's always good fun just to, on a Saturday morning,
Yeah.
listen to Coastal News Podcast.
Yeah.
Highly recommended.
They're good.
Yeah,
I've never watched Home and Away, and I enjoy them.
There you go. And now, this.
Welcome.
Welcome to Last Year Tonight with me, John Oliver. Just enough time to quickly talk about the inspirational podcasts.
Was somebody listening to us last year?
A few. That's right, this was Daisy's questioning of Jenny's decision to pursue a relationship with Leo. Someone's been ODing on the inspirational podcasts, she said.
That was definitely us.
I was Gavin, and you thought All Around the Milky Way Age of Ultron deserved an Oscar. I think that was the name of a game that Joseph was given in the show. All Around the Milky Way, which I think we were taking the piss out of because it sounded like such a shit game.
Right, yes.
It was -2 that morning, and Benny was refusing to wear a coat. He'd gone to school that day in shorts.
Yeah. Today he wore a lightweight jacket and a coat.
Yeah.
He's become sensible in his old age. That's what happens when you turn 16.
I was a grown man who could make up my own mind when you let me. Jenny frets about the age difference between her and Sinkhole Leo and has plans to call the whole thing off until she learns that he's been rushed to hospital after a rugby injury. Tim is cornered in hospital by people he's kept in the dark about his illness, while Sally's vandalism of a vending machine highlights some unwanted publicity in the Weather Gazette. This was her getting caught for
Peeing
peeing outside,
in the car.
I think.
In the car. In
Maybe,
the park.
I don't know if we saw it in the car. It was in the bush on Coronation Street.
Yeah, in the park.
I was outside.
It wasn't in
the community
Victoria
garden, I
Gardens,
think,
yeah.
Bernie and Dev do the real-life equivalent of updating their relationship status, but Evelyn becomes suspicious when she hears Bernie's claims of a pay rise and then learns of the presence of crisp wrappers in Fizzy's attic. Lydia is ready to dump Daniel after a number of red flags start waving, but finds that he has some supporters in unexpected places. With Craig's forensic report due any minute, Emma and Faye fret that their involvement in Ted's death will soon be uncovered by Weatherfield's very own Sherlock Holmes. They needn't worry.
No.
Finn's Veruca requires extended medical care. Tim's mum disapproves of party horns, and Joseph's video game is rubbish. Our moment of the week was Tim's wee face when Sally walked in to see him at hospital. And a boring moment of the week was that Veruca of Finn's. And that was Coronation Street. And the talk of the street, this time, last year.
Yes.
Shall we dive in, my dear?
I suppose we've got to at this point.
It's more of a habit than anything else now, isn't it?
Yes.
I actually really enjoyed it this week.
It was on the whole better than last week.
It was good enough so that I felt compelled to defend it when some people who said that it's not as good as it was in the 70s and racists were complaining about it.
Uh-huh. Well, we always defend it when racists complain about it
We
because
just tend to just ignore that. But,
that's our job.
But it was, I laughed quite a bit at this week.
Well, I
Delirium
mean,
or whatever, I'm not sure.
there's a very particular thing which is just laughable and reminded me of something else laughable that was floating once upon a time on the show.
I did think of that.
But we'll get to that.
We'll get to that. Our first storyline of the evening is Tim's mum about the house.
She better not take any breaks to the West End.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know if anyone's keeping her slippers warm.
I'd be very disappointed if we couldn't play that jingle anymore.
Somebody else's mum would just have to be about the house. Daisies. On
No.
Monday, fresh from killing his second victim, Stephen is in Nina's Rolls having a cuppa, leaving messages with Audrey to return the car so he can borrow it. Nick comes in to announce that she got a flat tyre on the way home, but luckily Kev was the hero. Everyone's blaming the weight in the roof box for the loss of tyre pressure.
And yet
See, that already is funny.
nobody's curious about what's... If I felt the weight of something on top of my car was responsible for blowing a tire, I would take that thing off the car and open it and say, what the hell is in here? Mm-hmm. And why does it smell so bad?
Why is there blood oozing out of this?
Right, yeah.
Why can I hear an old man groaning inside it?
There's certain aspects of the biology of a corpse that I don't know if biology is the right word for something that's dead, but never mind.
Composition?
About the physiology of a corpse.
No, you just don't want to go with my suggestion.
No, I don't. that seems to be overlooked in this whole thing.
Yeah, because that's the only thing that's been overlooked in this whole thing.
Well, yes.
This is funny.
It was funny watching it because last night when I finally got home at 9:30 at night, you know what I did? I sat down on the couch and I watched Game Night, one of our favorite movies.
Oh, I watched that recently.
Yes, you did.
Still good.
It's still good. You know, and there's that scene where Jason Bateman is sitting at the computer and the blood is dripping out of his arm
onto the dog,
onto Jesse Plemons' dog, and making a white dog
pink.
Red and pink and bloody and stuff while the dog is licking up the blood.
That's what dogs do.
And I'm just like, that's a much more realistic view of a wound on a body.
I don't know. The idea of Audrey driving through the country with
a dead man
on her roof, our imaginations do a lot of the heavy lifting here, but it's still pretty funny. So later, Stephen goes to work taking care to wander ominously around the spot where he killed Teddy. Then Audrey, who doesn't work at the factory, turns up at the factory to complain about the roof box and to hand over the keys of the car. It seems that the roof box was a nightmare going round corners. Again. Funny. On the street, Sarah tackles Stephen, suddenly concerned that the factory CCTV was on yesterday, catching her and Michael in there printing those labels. She suggests that he wipes it, giving him instructions on how to do so. So frantic, he goes back to the office, finds the dodgy footage, watches himself kill Teddy again, and deletes a lot just before Carla comes in. Oi, Joni Mitchell, she shouts. You've been rumbled. Again, that's a laugh every scene.
That is funny. That is funny. I like Carla.
She's found a label.
Carla.
She's found a label for Michael and Sarah's business, which suggests that they've been using the factory. Stephen pleads ignorance as Carla discovers that yesterday's CCTV has miraculously been deleted, so she stomps off so she can shout at Sarah for a bit. Finally, Stephen gets to Audrey's car, but it's got wooden doors, a wooden engine, a wooden roof box with Teddy's body in it, and it wouldn't go.
That was terrible. I'm very disappointed in you.
I told a joke in a meeting today. We were talking about the price of eggs because we're a financial company and I work in HR, so of course we're talking about the price of eggs.
Everybody's talking about the price of eggs
And
these
somebody
days.
was saying that they were thinking about buying a hen,
Right?
to save money on eggs.
As one does.
And I says you should buy a chick because I hear that they're going cheap. And I apologised ferociously after that. People laughed.
People also seem to forget that chickens need a house and food and an enclosure.
Oh, Helen literal broom sitting across from me.
Which is far more expensive than the eggs.
Anyway, he slams the steering wheel as PC Tinker appears. Next, David and Michael show up to give their opinion on the matter, Stephen begging for a push start as he has an important meeting to get to. David announces that he could be doing with borrowing the car so he can get some wood chippings in the box. They give Stephen a push, but the car is out of petrol, so David nabs the keys, gives Stephen his keys to go to his meeting, and then fucks off. This leaves Stephen just sitting on the wall, laughing maniacally. Stephen is resigned to David finding Teddy's body when he's buying his wood chippings, so he sits in the community garden and slowly gets pished. Billy comes along to talk about Leo and Teddy and vaguely tries to convert Stephen before leaving him to it.
While kind of denying the existence of hell, as a Christian archbishop is wont to do.
Archdeacon.
Whatever.
Archdeacons are allowed to.
Whatever. Still, denying the existence of hell is kind of...
Well, what did he say? He said that that's different things for different people, he said.
Yes, hell is different things for different people.
Mm-hmm.
Because hell is other people.
Hell is this podcast tonight, I'm telling you. In Nina's roles, Sarah and... In Nina's roles, Sarah and Michael are discussing biodegradable packaging when Carla comes in to shout at them about using factory facilities, flapping the label that she found in their faces.
Toner is expensive.
We never find out where she found that label from, though, did we?
It was like on the floor somewhere.
Well, presumably.
That's what she says.
She claims that she's onto them, and they deny all knowledge. Next, Jenny joins Stephen in the community garden and turns up her nose at his $3.99 bottle of wine and drags him back to the Rovers. Once there, he spots that he has 6 missed calls from David and dingies another one from Sarah. On the street, Sarah's leaving a message filling him in on her run-in with Carla.
But not like that.
And she bumps into Jenny, who's bought a lovely, nice big bag of wine for Stephen to get fucked on. She tells Sarah how down in the dumps Stephen seemed, so the two of them go back to the Rovers as Sarah gets a call from David. So Sarah goes to see Stephen, and there's a hilarious scene where there are so many crossed wires about Carla, the label, David, the roof box, a car manual, and an orange light that had come on.
And a dead corpse.
Eventually, Sarah gives Stephen Audrey's key back. Apparently the garden centre was out of wood chippings after all.
Well, it was Freshco's.
I thought it was a garden centre he went to.
No, Freshco's had a deal on wood chippings, and it had a deal on something else the week before, and I guess all of a sudden David is really into bargains. So Freshco's now, I guess, is more like a Meijer than,
It's got a little garden centre. Some
Right.
supermarkets are like that.
Yes.
Like Meijer, like you
like
just
Meijer,
said. Yeah.
yes.
I loved that little scene. I loved the confusion of it, the kind of farcical misunderstandings, and then at the end, Sarah just saying, "Oh, they were sold out." After all that,
Right.
After a minute worth of explanation and exposition, that didn't matter because they were all sold out anyway.
Yeah. Does it kind of feel like a little bit of that goes a long way?
I don't know. I like how they're kind of doubled down on this week and in this episode particularly, because this whole part of the storyline was just one thing going wrong after the other, and we haven't got to the best bit yet.
Right. Yeah. After he murdered a guy.
Yeah, but it was just Teddy, so who cares? Later in the Rovers, Sarah has to field accusations from Sean and Sally about the rogue label, but she continues to deny all knowledge. Sean says Stephen was looking well guilty. And meanwhile, in the dark, Stephen has driven Audrey's car with its well-travelled corpse on the roof to the canal, where after a fashion, he drags the roof box down, sticks a heavy sewing machine in with Teddy's feet, and pushes it into the canal, where, of course, it floats. And it floats rather magnificently as it slowly drifts away. Panicking again,
Almost like a gun.
Stephen starts throwing rocks at it, because that'll help.
Right.
But apparently it did. The roof box slowly submerges, and as it disappears, for now at least, a few bubbles of air escape as a pedestrian wanders by
With his dog.
and wishes Stephen a good evening.
Right.
Yup, says Stephen.
Yeah. That canal's not very deep.
No. Why didn't he just take the body to where he disposed the sinkhole Leo?
Well, maybe that is where he disposed of Sinkhole Leo.
I don't know, the sight of that roof box floating away, because of course it's going to float. It's mostly air that's in it, and it's mostly a corpse that is presumably now a little bit bloated.
And very heavy. Heavier than it was in life.
Oh, but things bloat, they float to the top.
Yeah, it hasn't reached that stage yet.
But it's in a very floatable roof box.
That is true. And yet somehow throwing rocks at it makes it sink.
Yeah, it's like the box thought about it. I said, sure. On
If
Wednesday,
you insist, I will
Right.
sink.
Stephen is very calm the day after he disposed of a corpse. He has breakfast with Sarah and is pleasant when Ronnie and Dee Dee sing the praises of the deal that they've just struck. Everything's coming up, Stephen. So why is he still in town?
God only knows.
And now showing absolutely no signs of leaving.
Right, because he's got this job at the factory now.
He's killed 2 people.
I know.
He's desperate to get out of Dodge.
One of them in that factory. And he didn't clean up very well. Of course, for some reason, even though he bludgeoned a man to death, there's no blood.
No.
There's no blood on that carpet.
No.
He bludgeoned a man to death, and there's no blood.
And Stephen runs into Tim's mum and Tim. Tim makes a fuss about the contents of the roof box again, wondering if there was a dead body in there. It was that heavy.
Yuck, yuck.
Wop, wop. Stephen tells Tim's mum that he's been taking her for granted, so asks her for dinner, explaining that her first repayment for the loan that she gave him should be landing with her pretty soon. So Stephen goes into the Rovers and for some reason explains that he's heard from Teddy, who has found Leo. They've sorted everything out and they won't be coming back, and neither of them want to hear from Jenny ever again. And do you fancy going out with me sometime? Jenny gives him a gentle knockback. Too soon, Stephen. Too soon.
Too soon.
Again, I don't know what...
Does
It's a needless lies. Jenny's not asking him any questions about
No.
this. And why would Teddy go to Stephen?
Right.
I just...
The way Jenny just kind of accepts it.
Oh, she accepts anything now.
It's so weird.
She's accepted all his falling about asking after Teddy for the past month, so now
This
it's
is
not going
true.
to make any difference.
No.
Back at the factory, Carla's punishing Stephen by making him work with Kirk to pack up the big Cheeseman order. Stephen is furious about this. It's not a great week for Kirk this week, is it?
Poor Kirk.
But he is cock-a-hoop at the assistants. Then Dick Haversham, an old friend from Milan, comes into the office and catches up with Stephen. Stephen insisting that he's working on consultancy stuff in the factory. Carla comes along and quickly disabuses Dick of this, saying Stephen is junior management, seconded into packaging, and this makes Stephen even more livid.
Right. And it looks like Dick Haversham is also wearing one of Imran's old suits.
He's been shopping in the charity shop. Later in the Rovers, did we ever establish if that really did happen? If it really was Imran's suit?
No, we never did.
I don't think we did. Later in the Rovers, Tim's mum tells Stephen that the payment came through and the sale of her house is now complete. So she's got cash falling out of her arse right now. Right?
Up her ass.
Out of her
Her
ass.
ass. down her ass.
Are you feeling okay?
Why do you keep asking me that?
On Thursday, Stephen is late for work. Carla doesn't care. She's sacking him for lying to that guy yesterday about being a consultant. Desperate for the work, he comes clean about Gabrielle, and he's lied to the bloke yesterday was just a face-saving thing. It was
Is
just
that really coming clean when it's just another lie? He comes clean with another lie?
Yeah, I don't think
That's
he
not
comes
really
clean at all.
clean.
And if anything, he's getting dirtier.
Right, yeah. He doubles down on a lie he's already told somebody else.
There we go. That's a better way of expressing that. Simultaneously, there's a sudden resource shortage with the knicker people. Fiz is off burying a chinchilla in another storyline, and Sally is sick.
That was when it was Sean, right? When Sean says to everybody else, apparently there's been a death in the family, everybody kind of goes, ah, and then goes back to their work. Nobody asks who died.
No, nobody really cares.
And nobody seems to care. It could have been Ruby.
Oh, poor Ruby.
And nobody cares.
Why Ruby?
Because she's the only likable character in that family.
Because of the kidney thing, right?
Right. And also because she's the only likable character in that family because she gets neglected by everyone else. Except of course for Cerberus.
Stephen rolls up his sleeves. He says he never asks anyone to do a job that he can't do himself. So Carla gives him a temporary reprieve and lets him get to work on the sewing machines. So during the push to get this cheesy order done, Stephen rallies the troops and keeps the spirits up by telling tales of Tim Hortons, hockey, and how Michigan gave away Toledo to Ohio. Job well done, or at least completed.
We did not give away Toledo to Ohio.
Yes, I know.
We got the UP from that deal.
I know.
I know about the Michigan-Ohio War.
I know. So do
Stop
I.
lying to people in the UK about our proud state.
But it's Stephen that's getting it wrong by... So, really, Ellen?
Michigan deserves better.
If Michigan gets a podcast it deserves. Job well done, or at least completed. He takes the knicker people to the pub and buys the first round. Carla's so impressed, she lets him keep his job. Then after his knockback from Jenny, he manages to make her jealous by striking up his relationship with Tim's mum once again. And that's as far as we get with that this week.
Whoa.
This was funny. I'm sorry.
No.
It made me laugh.
It's funny, but it's also like, what does the show want from us here? You know? Because sometimes it's like, death horror awaits on Coronation Street this week. And then we get treated to a floating box with a corpse in it.
Right.
That used to be on top of a car being driven around the North 40 by a geriatric lady who can barely see.
This to me is what people are looking for, or should be looking for, when they say it's not as funny as it used to be, it's not as everyday people as it used to be. I don't think it was...
This is still not everyday people.
I don't think it was ever really everyday people. There was always, or at least for the past 20 years, there's been extraordinary things happening to this little close-knit community.
Right.
But when people are looking for some laughs, it's like, well, there they are. Don't look at it saying it's ridiculous. I don't know. People are looking at it with a very discernible eye, or that's not the right word, but they're looking at it very particularly and choosing to see it as being ridiculous, but not choosing to see it as comedy. And I think it's supposed to be comedy. And if I see that as comedy, it's making me laugh. It's succeeding in what it's aiming to do. But if you're not looking for it to be funny, then it is going to be ridiculous. Like, oh, fuck's sake, of course the box is going to be floating. But no, look at it. Look at the situation. Look how flustered he's been all day, like Mr. Bean running about trying to get rid of this thing.
Right.
Like a piece of shit that's stuck to his shoe, and he just can't get rid of it. And I think there is comedy in there, and I think that's what they've been trying to tap, and I think they've been tapping it successfully. You seem to have a problem with it being in the background, he's murdered someone.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there is another funny storyline this week that I found really funny and that I really enjoyed.
Right. I think there's a couple, arguably. That
did not involve people dying.
Right.
I kind of feel like I prefer those types of funny stories as a balance to the drama of murder as opposed to making murder funny. And I'm saying this as a person who thoroughly enjoys shows like Barry. That's all Barry is. You know, it's not finding a balance because it's all that all the time, mostly. Let's be honest, I watch for Henry Winkler because I love the Fonz. But because everyone loves the Fonz, right? Right?
Sure.
Okay. So I don't know.
I guess. No, of course. What's not to love?
He's a delightful old man. He was so cute at the Golden Globes. And I follow him on Twitter. He's a great follow on the Twitter. Look at me, like trying to up Henry Winkler's career. I don't know. I found it funny. I found it on the whole much more enjoyable because they're leaning into the ridiculousness instead, as opposed to the floating gun, which was ridiculous and hilarious, but was supposed to be dramatic.
Yeah, that's not meant to be funny.
Right.
And that's where it does fail.
Right. Yeah. When it's unintentionally funny.
This I kind of joked about it being a Canadian Psycho.
Yes, you did. And people enjoyed that.
And I think, like American Psycho, the book American Psycho is, parts of it anyway, satirical.
Right.
Parts of it comedy. Parts of it arguably horribly misogynistic.
Right, yes. And unfortunately, the movie was not nearly as satirical and funny as the book was.
No. He's got a new book out.
Yes, I know.
I need to find my Kindle, because I always read the new Bret Easton Ellis, even though I don't really like him anymore.
No,
I still
he's
have
a
to
dick.
read it. Yeah. Oh, well, talking of that.
But at least you admit it, so it's fine.
Yeah, the worst thing I did was listen to his podcast.
Yeah, because he's a dick.
Right. Talking of which, our next storyline.
Whereas Chuck Palahniuk is actually not a dick. It's just his characters who are dicks.
There we go.
Yeah. Do they even one another out?
No.
Oh.
Our next storyline tonight is Thank God for Daniel. On Monday, in the Rovers, Glenda's trying to help Daisy. Try to help Daisy figure out who this mysterious Justin is. Daisy gets a call from an unknown number, so she chooses to ignore it just as Jenny comes in with more fucking flowers. Later in Nina's roles with Daniel, she admits that she has her number on her social media stuff, so he gets all arsey with her about that, despite him not realising that
I
someone
thought she
was
didn't
coming
have
on
her
to him.
number on her social media stuff.
No, it is. He reckons that the owner of the number and the sender of the flowers is the same person, and probably a complete stranger. Back at the Rovers, Daisy anxiously checks the door every time someone comes in with a... And then... Back at the Rovers, Daisy anxiously checks the door every time it opens when a familiar, creepy Scottish bloke comes in. He's the guy that she met at the cancer clinic appointment a few weeks ago, and he's the one who's been sending the flowers, and he's wearing a cagoule.
Remember when that happened and you said, this is really weird that this happened, and then nothing became of it.
Yeah.
I wonder why they did this.
Here's why they did it.
Here's why they did it.
And he thinks that she should dump Daniel to be with him, under the impression there was a connection between them. She says that they exchanged pleasantries, nothing more. He denies being her mystery caller, though. Then Glenda grabs him by the collar and frog marches him to the door and tells him to fuck off.
Right, because he says, where would I have gotten your number from? It's not on your social media. Her number's not on her social media.
It is. Daniel is in later as they discuss all the events of the day. If he isn't her mysterious caller, then who is? Daisy decides to call it, and as she does, in walks her mum, answering her ringing phone. Mm-hmm. And there's clearly no love lost between Daisy and her mum.
No.
She found that Daisy's getting married from one of her friend's mums, so this makes all of this Daniel's fault.
Yes.
In comes Jenny, and there's no love lost between her and Daisy's mum either.
No.
Daisy seems to be annoyed that her mum doesn't have her as a named contact in her phone, as if that would make a difference to Daisy's phone. Like if Daisy's mum had Daisy's number in her phone, when she phoned Daisy, it would show as Daisy's mum and not an unknown number.
No, because her mother was dinging it when she was trying to call her back.
Oh, was that what was
because
happening?
she didn't have it in as that was Daisy.
Back at number 1, Daisy's arms are still folded. Her mum has been dossing on a boat in Amsterdam for years and only been in touch twice a year. But she's here now, and she's dying for Daisy's wedding in 4 months. What are you going to be doing for 4 months then?
God only knows.
On Wednesday, Daisy's already sick of the sight of her
Working
mum.
at the knicker factory.
Probably. Jenny gives her the benefit of the doubt, given that she's there to see her. Apparently, a box of chocolates were delivered that Jenny thinks came from Daisy's mum, and Daisy is inclined to agree despite everything that's been happening this past week. And next we see creepy Justin hanging around outside number 1, keen to know that Daisy got her chocolates okay. They were an apology for all the flowers that he's been sending her. Yikes. Back in the Rovers, Daisy's freaked the fuck out now that the creep knows where she lives. Her mum, Christina, I think her name is.
Yeah, of course it's Christina.
Thinks it's harmless and has eaten all the chockies.
Yeah, of course she would.
Daisy tells her mum that she doesn't want to reconnect with her and she doesn't want her at her fucking wedding in 4 months' time. On Thursday, oh, here we go. On Thursday, Daisy's mum is ready to leave and Daisy couldn't care less, but for some reason, Daniel is taking the mum's side in all this and promises Daisy's mum that he'll have a word with her daughter to sort things out between the two of them.
Right, yeah. He's like, because she tries, the mum, Christina, gives Daniel a box with a necklace in it from Daisy's grandmother.
Who cares?
And says, could you give this to her? And I'm just really sorry it didn't work out. And of course, Daniel just falls head over heels for this and is like, no, I'm going to be the hero of this story because if there's one thing I like being, it's a white knight. Mm-hmm. Fuck that guy.
So he contrives a meeting between Daisy and her mum at the bistro. She's furious at him, but he says that he did it because he loves her. So Daisy has to endure a lunch with her mum that she never wanted.
Yeah, and he fucks off.
Yeah, I'll leave the two of you to it then. My work here is done.
In being a complete and utter asshole.
During an icy meal, Christina explains that the reason why she was such a lousy mum for all those years was that she never wanted to be a mum in the first place, and she hated being a mum. But she's somewhat interested in being one now, and somehow this seems to be enough to melt Daisy's cold heart on the matter. They go home to catch Daniel wanking at internet porn on his laptop. Do you notice every time somebody walks in on Daniel, he closes his laptop down? Dirty, dirty boy. Daisy is forced to thank Daniel for contributing to improved relations here, but she still disapproves of his methods. After the wedding, her mum can still fuck off. Daniel goes to make a cuppa, leaving Daisy to go through her socials, and she begins to notice a lot of comments and likes from the "this charming man" avatar thing. So she blocks him. And that's as far as we get with that this week.
Yes.
So Daniel, armed with 24 hours worth of knowledge about the history of Daisy and her mother, decides that he knows enough about this to say that Daisy not wanting to have a relationship with her mother is wrong, and he needs to fix it.
Right. What a dick. Why do women like him? Why do women like Stephen? Because Daisy's mum, when Stephen walks in to the Rovers, starts flirting with him and seems to want to get in. Why are women attracted to that? What is going on here? Do they not see that?
Women love a murderer.
That is the least attractive Canadian man I've ever seen in my life. It's like Carla says, it's like, why are you complaining that I called you Keanu Reeves and Ryan Reynolds? You should feel complimented by this.
Seth Rogen.
Seth Rogen is hot. There, I said it.
Are you sure you're okay?
As long as he keeps his mouth shut, he's hot. Just don't tell that man a joke, because then he laughs and it's all over. But he's adorable to look at.
Send help.
And he makes nice pottery.
I don't know what the show's doing here with this, because it's not even acknowledged, and Daisy, while being furious, is just so easily swayed by it that this really is a kind of just overriding her wishes and her wants, and the
Left,
fact
right,
that
and
she
centre.
knows her mum much better than he does.
Yeah.
He knows nothing about this situation.
Right. Well,
But he
at
knows
least,
enough to be able to say, no, you're wrong. I'm going to fix this.
Yeah, by forcing you to spend time with her. I don't know why she didn't just walk out.
She should have. She
That's
should.
exactly
when she
what she should have done.
When she said, well, the two of you
Right.
enjoy your dinner.
And walked
I'm
out.
out of here. She should have just walked out.
And at least she's honest with him. She's like, you know, she said this thing and it was horrible, but it actually makes me feel better because at least she was honest about it for the first time ever. But she's still an unlikable person that I don't want in my life.
Right.
You know? And he does not seem to respect that.
No.
He's such a dick. He just gets off so much on being this whole white knight thing. It's absolutely ridiculous. Is that because every other man in his family is horrible? Although I guess Peter's not horrible anymore.
Not anymore.
Yeah. In
I don't know.
a world full of Barlows, be a Peter.
It's,
A Peter now, not a Peter then.
right. It's completely in keeping with his character.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it just makes the whole relationship with Daisy even more
It makes
crazy.
it so infuriating because it's so against her character to accept this sort of thing. It's like weakening, you know, the bold brassiness of Daisy by continuing to put her with Daniel, who's just such a wet sponge.
Such a wet sponge, but a hand strong enough to push her down.
Right. Yeah. It's the heaviness of the wet sponge.
Yeah.
I
I wonder if that would float. Probably. Anyway, I'm glad that we got this charming man thing done because that's
Right.
been lingering about for a little while.
Yeah.
Do you think that is this Justin character though? I mean, we've had the old switcheroo where
I
our
feel
mum-
like we haven't seen the last of this Justin character.
we haven't.
No, I don't think so.
I'm wondering if at some point in the future Daisy's getting kidnapped.
Because this man is crazy. She has said to his face, look, I'm sorry about your mom, but this isn't happening. And yet he keeps showing up. So there's something not wired correctly in that man's brain.
I was going to try and make a case for Daisy dumping Daniel for this guy.
Yeah, but he doesn't do your right.
He didn't do yours right. He put an apostrophe in it. Can't be doing that. Okay, moving on to our next storyline, which is Everybody Hates Kirk. On Monday, in the factory, Fiz is complaining to Sally about Tyrone's lack of foreplay in the boudoir. So Sally goes through her extensive experience of role-play and dress-up and offers Fiz a rummage through her dress-up box. It's all been laundered, it's fine. And Fiz is kind of, I don't think this is appropriate. I don't think we should be talking about it, but still kind of gets more information out of her on it. So Fiz goes home and asks if Tyrone would be interested in dressing up as a pilot. And he knows immediately that she's been speaking to Sally.
Right, that was funny.
They're interrupted by Evelyn, who knows that she's walked into the middle of something. And that was pretty funny as well.
Yes.
And later, Evelyn berates Tyrone, warning him not to blow it with Fiz again and to keep his eyes away from any maps of Eastern Europe. On Wednesday, Fiz is packing to go visit her mum for an overnight. Meanwhile, Tyrone has plans for a night out with some mates, so Evelyn has the house to herself, she discovers. Later, Evelyn sees Tyrone servicing the car of a woman who sold him the chinchilla.
Yes, but not like that.
The two
the
densest
service,
fur in the animal kingdom,
the servicing of the woman,
Okay,
not the
sell the
selling of the
chinchilla.
chinchilla.
if you know what I mean.
Yeah, like a merkin.
Yeah, she sold me the chinchilla, if
You know what I mean.
The two are friendly, and Evelyn clearly thinks that something's going on between them, and she accuses Tyrone of flirting. She's seen this
The
all
chinchilla
before.
woman did seem to want to get into Tyrone's
She liked
pants.
to look at Tyrone. He pleads his innocence, though. So Evelyn goes to enlist the services of Roy, telling him that Tyrone is playing away from home, and they both see Tyrone all dressed up, looking pretty smart, it has to be said, talking into his phone about meeting someone at the rape hotel. So, fire up the Woody, shouts Evelyn,
But not like that.
and they give chase. In the rape hotel, Tyrone is doing his best Jack Duckworth impression as he announces his arrival on the phone to a secret party as Evelyn and Roy, who are in their tan raincoats, and couldn't look more out of place in this hotel if they
Right.
tried.
And Roy's drinking a mocktail that he claims is too sweet.
standing out like sore thumbs. This reminds me of when I was in Sydney. And we were staying in this, I think it was a Marriott hotel, but it was a fancy Marriott hotel.
Right.
It was,
Like a Marriott Bavoy.
maybe even one of those things, if they had them in the early 90s.
Who knows?
And it's in the middle of Sydney, I think King's Cross-ish area. And me and my mum and my Aunt Kathy
You and your mullet.
were sitting in the foyer criticising all the dresses of the tuxedos of these men and women who were obviously going to some cocktail party or some fancy dance. I'm wearing a faded LA Raiders t-shirt and shorts and a mullet. My mum's wearing a cagoule. My Aunt Kathy's probably wearing another cagoule. That was quite funny. We had no business being there.
I can see it.
Right.
I can see it as if it is happening right in front of me.
Right. Then they see Tyrone meet up with a blonde woman. Tyrone is putting on his best Jim McDonald impression now as he talks to the woman, and as Roy and Evelyn pounce, we see that the blonde woman is actually Fiz in the wig.
Yes.
Probably Sally's wig. Oh, it's Fiz, says Roy. They've been indulging in some role play. Fiz is a leisurewear entrepreneur, and Ty is an Irish horse trainer.
No,
Here for the Grand National.
He owns
His name
he owns a stud farm.
He's Lance and she's Penelope. Roy is very uncomfortable about this
It's so cute.
and drags Evelyn away. So back at Nina's Rolls, Evelyn chats with Roy about the youth of the day and their kinky stuff, and she reminisces about the time that she didn't give Roy a blowjob in the Woody that time. Roy buttons up his jacket. Meanwhile, in the hotel, Fiz and Tyrone decide that role play isn't for them and go to get...
As I go up to the hotel,
Go
go
to the
up to the
room.
room and have sex anyway,
yes.
which is fine.
I really liked the little chat between Evelyn and Roy in the cafe afterwards. 'Cause
Absolutely.
it seemed like we were going...
I was finally going to get my wish
Right.
that they
but
were going to hook up.
Roy nixed that.
Well, it seems like Roy is nixing any kinky stuff with Evelyn. That's because she's like, because she kind of implies, well, maybe the kids have the right idea, and that's when he zips his jacket up a little bit more
Yeah, she says that...
because he's showing too much skin,
she says that maybe she's been missing out
right?
on all this kind of stuff.
Right.
But now with the news that she's
Leaving for
going
a
out, it's
year.
like, well, I think we can write that one off for a while.
Oh, damn it.
The two of them are so good together.
They
as well.
are. They are. I would watch a show that was just the two of them, and occasionally Nina.
And with the precinct thing happening, and there was mention of the charity shop again.
Yes.
You know, the chance of getting the two of them in the charity shop would have been, I don't know, I think
would have been
that's
brilliant.
pretty gold.
Yeah.
That sort of stuff.
Yeah.
On Thursday, Fiz and Tyrone are back from their sordid night at the Rape Hotel to find that Hope has drawn up a list of stuff that Cilla's going to need. It's going to cost about £100. Tyrone refuses to pay for it and tells Hope to get a job. That chinchilla is her responsibility. And later at the garage...
Which is exactly what we said to Stelly when she asked for a $900 guitar.
Did we?
Yes.
Oh.
Well, I did. You weren't there.
Okay.
But you would have said it in spirit. Get a job, you bum. That's what we say to our children.
Later at the garage, Tyrone is busy having a cuppa and blethering to Fiz when Kirk comes along looking for someone to babysit Peanut for him and Beth while they go on holiday. Tyrone and Fiz can't be arsed and suggest that he speaks with Hope. So there's this wee scene where Fiz announces, Hope, Uncle Kirk's here to see you. And Hope just looks so pissed off that she's got to speak to Kirk. It was hilarious.
It was.
Anyway, after some haggling, where everyone in the house basically tells Kirk to his face that he's a fucking imbecile, a deal is struck where Hope will babysit his stupid fucking dog for a tenner, with tonight being a dummy run or something. Peanut is not happy to be introduced to Cilla the chinchilla. And later, Hope and Ruby seem to be in the house alone and are horrified to discover that Cilla's cage is open and she's missing, and when Hope finds her, she seems to be dead behind the chair in the living room.
Yes.
Tyrone arrives and is about to give Cilla the kiss of life when Evelyn comes in and her horrified scream at the scene stops him in his tracks. Cilla is dead. She's an ex-chinchilla. She has shuffled off this mortal coil. Fucking Peanut, says Hope.
Peanut did nothing.
I think they would know all about it if Peanut had done something, because that
Right.
thing would have been torn to shreds.
Right. And they would have heard squealing.
But Evelyn's point was maybe the dog just terrified the chinchilla.
That's not how this works.
That's not how chinchillas work.
That's not how chinchillas work. That's not how dogs work.
Beth and Kirk are summoned back from their night out at the Rovers and refuse to accept that Peanut was responsible.
And Kirk has this delightful line that he says as he's cradling Peanut and walking away. He says to, of all people, Tyrone and Fiz, you just don't understand what it feels like when somebody accuses your daughter of murder.
Yeah.
And Tyrone and Fiz look at one another like they know exactly how that feels. That was funny.
It was also funny when Beth says, right, come on, we're out of here. Come on, darling. And you, Kirk.
Right? That was also funny. And the only person who had to die was a chinchilla.
Yeah. The family take Cilla to the community garden and bury Cilla the chinchilla, where Hope reads a poem about how she loved the chinchilla more than her sister. It was quite a good wee poem.
Are they allowed to bury dead pets
I don't
in
think
the
so.
community garden?
I don't think so. It's going to attract rats, isn't it?
A dog is going to unbury it and drag it
Peanut,
through the
probably.
streets.
Everyone heads home, while Hope mutters under her breath that Cilla's death will be avenged. And that's as far as we get with that this week.
I am delighted by how many of the dogs of the street show up this week, I have to say.
Well, a couple.
Yeah, but that's more than
More
usual.
than usual. That's true. More than usual.
We had Cerberus, we had Peanut, and in a little while we're going to get David.
We're going to get David.
The new David. The David with the new face. The dog David with a new face.
I couldn't tell the difference.
It has a longer face than
Does
the
it?
old one, yeah.
Yeah.
The other one had a more
It's a wee
round
Yorkie,
face.
right?
Yeah.
Wee Yorkshire Terrier.
Yeah.
Wee
This
yappy
one
type
almost
dogs.
looks like a Scottish Terrier in the face. Only obviously not black like a Scottish Terrier.
Mm-hmm.
Aren't Yorkies white? Or am I thinking of something else?
Yorkies are ginger. Ginger and black.
What's the white one? The white Terrier.
That's a Scottie. That's a wee Scottie.
No, the Scottish Terriers are black.
I think you can get white Scottish Terriers, can you?
That's not what I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of the white one that's on the dog food.
The wee Caesar things?
Yeah.
Caesar. For small yappy type dogs.
What is Caesar?
Used to be called Mr. Dog. But it changed its name to Caesar for some reason.
It was never called Caesar here in America. Maybe that's
Was it called Mr. Dog?
I mean, no, it was never called Mr. Dog in America. It was always called Caesar.
This is a Marathon Snickers thing then. That's interesting. I bet you nobody knows that. Well,
Or
clearly people do
like-
know that, but I
or
bet you
like-
it's not widely known
Or like Top Cat,
as Boss Cat.
right? Or TK. People in America freaked out. The thing about Prince Harry's book that made Americans freak out the most was the existence of TK Maxx. Because here in America, it's TJ Maxx. And they're like, why the hell did they change the name of TJ Maxx to TK Maxx in the UK? What's wrong with those people? It should be TJ Maxx. We want justice. And I was like, you guys, wait, calm down. Let me tell you about Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles.
Yep. Can't have Ninja in the title.
Can't have Ninja in the title.
Which means that somebody had to record that theme tune all over again with Hero instead of Ninja.
So they didn't just, or did they just blur out Ninja?
No, it was...
Teenage Mutant Turtles.
No, they sang Hero.
Teenage Mutant Turtles.
And the logo had Hero written on it. And all the merchandise had Hero on it as well.
Which is hilarious because with Top Cat, they didn't change the theme
It was
theme.
only the movie that was called Ninja. And then everyone was going, why is this one called Ninja when it was Hero? There you go.
There you go.
What were we talking about? Oh, Coronation Street. That's right. So Hope here probably is going to be targeting Peanut for some revenge.
Right. And it's going to be hilarious as long as Peanut doesn't die.
Yeah.
Because if Peanut dies, Hope dies. We do not condone the death of dogs on television.
Ruby's wee face of shock when Cilla the chinchilla was found dead was...
And
moment of
also,
the week material.
let's all remember that when that stupid chinchilla was bought, it was supposed to be for both girls.
And it was supposed to be a fish.
And very quickly, nobody remembered that that was Ruby's chinchilla as well. And everybody is so sad for Hope about her chinchilla. And it's like, wait, that was supposed to be Ruby's as well. What is wrong with you people? Why do you neglect the good child? Are you gonna make her clean up the cinders as well and forbid her from going to the ball?
This is all building up to Ruby absolutely losing her shit in a couple of years' time.
Ruby is going to become a wealthy entrepreneur and move away from the street and not send any money home. And she'll be right.
She will be right. Okay, our penultimate storyline tonight is double bacon Chesburger. On Monday, at the courthouse, Gemma has had an explosion of requests for childcare. Chesney wants to talk about the dream he had last night, which was about cheeseburgers. At work, Chesney takes a load of beef off of Dev's hands before it goes on the turn, as he wants to practice on it, and the mind absolutely boggles about what Chesney means here. What could he get up with some wet flanks of beef?
It's going to be an American Pie situation, isn't it?
But instead of fucking it, he's decided to cook it up into a fancy burger for Gemma. She takes a bite, and with her mouth full to the brim with food, she says this is the best burger she's ever had. It turns out that setting up his own craft burger place is his new lifelong ambition.
Right.
He wants to call it the Chesburger.
Because he had a dream 2 days ago.
Right.
Now
He's
this is
been
his
working
lifelong
in fast food
for years.
his entire life, it feels
for
like.
years.
But now he has a dream about a
Right.
cheeseburger. Now he's going to make a cheeseburger.
Right.
I would think that fast food would be the last thing he would be interested in.
Right. Well, no,
Because
this
that
is
man
like
has been stinking of garlic for the past 20 years.
this is like a fancy pub burger, though. He's trying to move up.
A burger's a burger, let's face it.
It is not true.
On Wednesday, so Gemma is meeting up with a mum with two kids that wants to get childcare from yesterday. And she wants to know if Gemma's got her insurance, has had her background checks done, and all her inspections and all
Right.
that malarkey. Gemma says that she's looking into it, which doesn't really tick any boxes for the mum, who says, let's just leave it for now, eh?
Yes.
So in the kebab shop, Tim is very impressed with the Chesney burger, and Dev is very supportive of Chesney chasing his dream. And Ches is even more enabled when he hears how shite the childcare interview thing went. So he's
Right.
thinking, well, we're not going to be making any money from this. On Thursday at the kebab house, Dev is thrilled when he tastes a new barbecue sauce that Chesney has created. But not only that, Chesney has lifted money from the wedding fund to copyright Chesney Burger and make a go of his business idea, and he hasn't told Jem about it. And this all seems to be because Tommy O is opening a burger place or something.
If you're going to set up a business making burgers or really anything, do you really think the first thing you want to do before you've set up anything in order to make the money or advertise this thing or create this thing, the first thing you're going to throw money at is copywriting the Chesburger?
He says that he also bought some equipment.
Where exactly does he think he's going to set this equipment up?
No
Because he
idea.
can't set it up at home because that requires health inspections and everything as well.
Mm-hmm.
And why is Dev encouraging this? That's the thing that blows my mind about all of this, is that Dev's like, so does he think he's going to sell them at his kebab shop?
Well, Dev's always got that entrepreneurial spirit behind him, and he wants people to be, speculating to accumulate and chasing their dreams. He's very big on that.
But he was also the one who sat Chesney down a couple of weeks ago and says, look, you need to marry this woman. You can't keep putting this off. And now he's the one who's enabling him to put this off.
And also, all this has happened in 24 hours.
Right.
Why wouldn't he tell Gemma?
And remember, this is a family that's on the brink of total poverty.
Always on the brink.
All the time. Because apparently that's what happens when you have lots of kids.
Food or copyright on this Chesburger idea. And nobody's going to buy it. Well, Chesburger is cheeseburger with just some E's missing.
Right. Which I think is the play on words.
Oh, sophisticated as it is.
Yes.
Anyway, Michael is dropping off Glory with Gemma, but she points out that she can't look after the kid because she doesn't have qualifications or insurance.
Right.
But Michael is so desperate to get rid of the kid that he doesn't care and is happy to pay Gemma as a friend under the table sort of thing on the down low.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, it's okay for her to take care of one child for a friend, that's like a babysitting thing, because that's not setting up like a daycare, which is what you need all the insurance and stuff for.
Well, it's all fine until somebody gets
Hurt.
their eye taken out.
Right.
Which, to be fair, Michael would still probably be upset about that had Gemma had qualifications and some insurance.
Right, yes.
Anyway, she runs round to tell Chesney the good news at the kebab shop, and he comes clean about stealing money from the wedding fund for his fledgling burger business. Gemma is fucking furious about this
Rightly so.
and tells him to sleep at the kebab house, which he probably does on a frequent basis anyway.
Yes.
In the pub, Daniel is moaning to Michael about his childcare woes, so Michael puts him on to Gemma. Gemma makes it clear again that she doesn't have the qualifications or insurance, but Daniel, like Michael, doesn't care so long as the kid is off his hands for a few hours and agrees to the arrangement. And Gemma is cock-a-hoop.
Yes.
And that's as far as we get with that this week. It's a wee shame that we've finally discovered something that Gemma's good at.
Right.
Well, she's good at BSL as well.
Well, and she's using the BSL with the child minding as well. She's teaching kids BSL. That's delightful.
That's her USP. And it feels like the way that the story is going, with now two dads happy to offload their kid without any qualifications or insurance or background checks, that
apparently she
something-
has applied for her certification. So she is trying to do it the right way.
right.
But there's like all these other things that would have been much better use of that money. It would have been much better use of the money to get the insurance and everything for the child minding, which will actually make money, whereas the Chesburger is going nowhere.
Well, as Gemma said, they'd made an agreement that
They
the
weren't gonna
wedding
touch
was
the
going to
money.
be the most important thing, and once that
Right.
was done, then
Right.
all this could happen.
Right.
Because Gemma wants her wedding.
Right. Rightly so. It's been ages. They got engaged when those babies were born, and now they're walking around and talking.
That's true. I do worry, though, that something's going to go wrong here because it's Gemma, and things
Right.
always go wrong for Gemma.
Yeah.
And I just kind of like her to have something that's successful, and
Right.
I
Yeah.
like her having something that she's good at.
Remember how happy we were for her with the whole Freshco deal, and then they had to ruin that?
Oh, yeah. All right. Our final storyline tonight is some of Max's best friends are black. On Monday, Maria is meeting with Alia to talk about funding for the refugee centre thing and to get people engaged and answer people's questions. Alia suggests running a drop-in meeting and offers speed dial as a venue. Maria is still worried about Gary's opinions on this. And then Nina rolls, we called it, Blake, Max's old bully, is a racist after all. And he congratulates Max on speaking his mind and saying things that no one else has the bottle to say.
He actually says, I didn't realize it was you making those videos. And it's like, he's
in them.
in most of those videos.
He's in them. He's in them all. Gary comes in on the phone to Maria, unconvinced about this drop-in idea thing. He says there are too many idiots. Like this pair of pricks, he says, and he points to Blake and Max. Blake takes offence, while Max just leaves because it's anything for an easier life. At the Rose Gold flat, Gary and Alia have a chance to chat. She tells him Maria is doing great work, and Griff is behind bars now, so there's not so much for Gary to get his knickers in a bunch about.
Well,
But Gary is worried that there are far too many Griffs still out there.
true.
At number 8, David and Max are chatting about wood chippings. They go on to the subject of alpha males, which David suspects is the reason why Max was hanging out with Griff and the gang. And Max says that compared to him, they were alpha males because he's just a stupid hairdresser.
Right. You're not an alpha male because you have a job.
Right. cutting people's hair.
Right. Besides the fact that the concept of the alpha male is based upon false science and false observances of the natural world anyway.
Is it?
Because most of the alpha males in like wolf packs and stuff are females.
What about the gorilla? The gorilla's got an alpha male, the biggest silverback in the group, isn't it?
Right, but they don't call those alpha males.
I think they do.
No, they call it something else. The big silverback gorillas. They call them big silverback gorillas.
Yeah, but I think
But-
that's shorthand for alpha male.
But also the big
Longhand, really.
the big silverback gorillas, they kind of just, they're like lions. They kind of just sit around, you know, until something needs doing, until the lawn needs mowing.
Right.
And then they get up and they take care of that, and then they sit around some more.
So, absolutely like Griff then. I feel like we've solved something tonight.
The females are the ones
This was worthwhile
collecting the
after all.
food and organizing, the families together and everything. The alpha males are just there to, like, occasionally tell, like, a capuchin monkey to back off. Or to shake a fist at a tiger or something, Like lions. The male lion lies around sleeping most of the time, while the females are the ones going out and getting the food and taking care of the kids. And
David
everything.
Attenborough, you can stand down. Helen's Life on Earth, it paints a picture, let's just put it that way. Waving a fist at a lion.
A tiger.
Oh, no, excuse me, because that would be
I
ridiculous.
said a tiger.
It's the idea that I think you're kind of making this point as well.
Right.
Like, what exactly does Max mean when he thinks that these guys are alpha males and David isn't? When David rightly points out, I'm the one that's putting food in your belly, putting a roof over your head,
Putting
and
clothes on your back.
and paying for the gifts and the laptop and the Wi-Fi
Right,
and
yeah.
everything, and providing for you.
Right.
I mean, if that's what you call an alpha male, it's sad that has to have a name
Right.
for a start.
Right.
But if that is something that Max is just ignoring, because we get little hints of this later on, and very explicitly,
Right.
we get more evidence of it later on about what does Max see when he's looking around about his room and his house
And his life.
and everything, to find that the alpha males are these fucking losers, and he's so hard done by,
Right.
when the only example he's got is that he didn't get a place at the school because he got expelled
Right.
for upskirting, wasn't it?
No,
for drugging.
He got expelled
For drugging
putting
Amy.
a date rape drug in Amy's drink, which he intended for his teacher.
Right.
Let's not forget. And also, there was the upskirting thing, which he was sharing, but apparently, supposedly, wasn't the one who was doing the videotapes. And then there was something else before that, where he punched his teacher. Remember when he punched his teacher? And then he made that whole video about supposedly Daniel and Summer sleeping together?
Yeah. So
There's been a long line of things where he has been the oppressor, and yet he sees himself as the oppressed.
And I always think that this comes down to a lack of examination, a lack of asking why.
Yeah.
Why is this the way that it is?
Right.
He said, and we're kind of jumping ahead a
Yeah,
little
we are
bit,
kind of jumping ahead.
but when he's saying he's losing his school place, he's not asking, well, why did that happen?
Right.
He's got to a bit that he thinks is the start of the story.
Right.
And it isn't the start of the
No.
story. And so many things kind of arise from that lack of inquisition as to what really the source of this
Well,
is.
that's because he cannot see himself as anything but the victim of this. Nothing can be his fault.
Right.
And David and Shona have kind of enabled him in this.
And they continue to do so,
Right. Well, not Shona, because
Shona.
she's in London.
having babies. So, he says that David isn't an alpha male because he's a hairdresser, and at least Griff stands up for
for
something
what
that
he believes in. And it's like, what, you don't think David is not standing up for what he believes in every day when he gets up and he goes to work and he
Yeah.
puts food on your plate?
And every time he disagrees with you, Max is standing up for what he believes in.
Right, absolutely.
On Wednesday, Darian comes into Near's Rolls with flyers for the drop-in at Speed Dial, and he asks if Max would like to join them, but Max reacts very badly, goes on about your lot, and storms out.
I don't understand why Darian thought that was a good idea.
Oh, seriously.
He should know better.
And it's kind of just slight issues with that character because of things like that.
Right. Like he doesn't quite understand.
Gary's still fretting about the drop-in thing, but offers to help so he can be Maria's bodyguard. Maria doesn't think it'll be necessary after Alia sat on a bomb and it blew her up. David is cleaning Mr. Osborne as a fanny off the barber wall when Maria and Gary wander by. They chat about Max and his fight with Darian. Gary hopes that Max stays away from the drop-in. And in the pub later, Maria tells David that she wants to help with Max and suggests that he comes along to the drop-in later to hear some different views, and David says he's going to think about it. So Gary's standing like a doorman outside Speed Dial ahead of the drop-in thing. Inside, Kirk and Carla are helping out, setting up with Alia and Maria. Darian has handed out all the flyers. The word is on the street, and a very fancy Dee Dee arrives for her presentation that she's going to be given during this thing. Back at number 8, David is doing a piss in the backyard. Meanwhile, Max is watching a live stream from what's-his-face, Blake,
Yes.
going on about Britain for the British and chemtrails, and he's going to make people sit up and take notice, but he's forced to stop watching when David asks him to stop David from shitting in a bush. So Blake walks into Speed Dial, ingratiates himself with Alia and Yasmin and Maria, and then immediately continues his hate speech from a corner, filming the people at the meeting, calling them cockroaches, saying that he's going to be in the news tomorrow, and then shows off a knife in his pocket.
Yeah. And nobody notices. Nobody's like, why is that kid talking to himself in the corner?
Why does he keep on saying cockroaches? Max finally gets back on his phone and sees Blake stream and then sees the knife. Oh, shite, he says.
Right.
And Max runs to Speed Dial, but bodyguard Gary sees him looking sweaty and all kind of suicide vesty and refuses to let him in. At this, Blake produces a knife, goes for Maria. Darian shouts, "Knife!"
He's got a knife.
Alia sees this, throws herself between them, and ends up getting stabbed in the stomach for her troubles. Gary and Darian pounce on Blake and get rid of the knife, although Darian's hand gets slit in and injured in the process. Yasmin ushers everyone out, including Max, while Dee Dee calls the emergency services, i.e. Craig and Aggie. Sarah finds Max in a fairly catatonic state outside. Meanwhile, Alia is looking in really bad shape, while Maria gets some big band-aids as the sirens approach. "We're all going to be okay," says Gary, not ominously at all. And at this point, I'm actually a little bit worried for Alia here.
Right. And it was so weird. It was so weird because for the longest time during this scene, Alia is on the ground, clutching her side, hyperventilating, and nobody's paying attention to her at all. She's all by herself because everybody is focused on either getting the hell out of there or holding down Blake.
Yep.
And I'm like, does nobody care that this woman is bleeding
well,
on the floor?
I think that just says something about the chaos and confusion that was going on there.
Yeah, but still.
Because when you saw everyone pouring out at Speed Dial,
Right.
like, I don't think I've seen that many people in one scene in Coronation Street in the
In a long
longest time.
Yeah. It was kind of hilarious when it cut to the scene of Tim eating the Chesburger, but not like that, and looking outside and saying, "Hey, what's going on out there?"
Right.
And nobody goes out to investigate.
Nobody does.
Just like nobody cares about who died in Fiz and Tyrone's house.
Alia is whisked away in an ambulance, as is Darian, while armed coppers take Blake away, and he shouts to Max in his way that Max was his inspiration. Gary thinks Max was involved and tells the police to get him, but Max runs away. David is outside number 8, hearing the commotion, when Max comes round the corner. "What the fuck have you done now?" he asks. At the hospital, Yasmin and Maria wait for news on Alia. Darian is going to be okay. Thank goodness.
Yes, but his hands are all bandaged up.
Yep. Then a doctor comes along to tell Yasmin that Alia has a punctured lung. And
Which
she's
is
in
why she was
surgery
hyperventilating.
now. Well, that kind of explains that, right? And this brings us on to this week's hard debate. Alia was sat on an exploding bomb a couple of weeks ago. This is nothing in comparison. Surely she'll be okay, won't she? Yes, said 40.5%. No, said 8.3%. And don't call me Shirley, said 51.2%.
And that was me.
Thank you
I was
to
one of those.
51.2% who got the joke. But honestly, at this point, I'm thinking back to the conversation that we had when
Right.
Alia exploded, and I was saying what a brave thing
It
would
would
have been
be.
to do would be to kill Alia.
Right.
For Alia to die in that explosion rather than the stupid blowing her out of the van reasonably uninjured.
Right. Where she's wandering the streets until Craig finds her.
And I thought, well, is this the reason why she survived that, was to die in this?
Right. Saving Maria's life.
Because she was in bad shape. And Gary had said, we're all going to be okay.
Right.
And that is the kiss of death.
Yeah. I think there may be a reason for her to survive, and that's because some of the other aspects of the storyline where we are finally getting people on the street uncomfortably defending racism because of family. And I feel like that would be unconscionable if Alia dies.
Right.
Yeah.
On Thursday, well, it looks like Alia's going to be okay. She comes round at the hospital with Yasmin by her side. Maria is there too, having been there all night, claiming that she should be in that bed instead, which isn't really fair because Maria's just tired and Alia got stabbed. In Nina's roles, Maria and Gary are watching Darian try to cut up his breakfast with both hands and bandages. And they're like, will somebody please fucking help this boy?
Right. Which Maria proceeds to do.
Homeless Stu comes in with a present for Darian. It's a pair of football boots.
Yay!
And they go off to see Alia while Maria continues to beat herself up, feeling responsible for all this because she was acting Billy Big Bananas. I hated that. I hated the fact that Gary was kind of proved right here.
But in a way he wasn't, because if he had let Max talk, all of this could have been averted. If he hadn't gotten in Max's face and said, "No, you're not allowed here. You need to back off." If Max had just shouted, "Watch out, he's got a knife," all of this could have been averted, but he was too busy arguing with Gary without saying why he was there.
That's true. Back at the hospital, Alia's trying to reach for a sandwich and ends up knocking over her tray, and I suspect Yasmin's sandwich. Alia is quick to anger, thinking of what would have happened if Gary and Darian hadn't been there. Then homeless Stu and
Somebody
Darian...
else would have held Blake down.
Right. Then homeless Stu and Darian show up. Darian has brought in these football boots for Alia to see, and she seems very happy about this. Later...
It was...
But
At the beginning of this scene, I'm like, why on earth has the hospital given this woman with a punctured lung
A sandwich.
in packaging that she has to open?
that's what I thought as well.
And I was like, what is going on here? And then when it fell, I was like, oh, that's why. Because if it had been an open plate of hot food.
She's had the surgery. She's had a punctured lung.
Right.
She's had the surgery. She's recovered from it. She's kind of delirious and she's thinking, did I survive or is this
Hell.
is this the afterlife, right?
Right.
She's
No-
having all that. She's reaching for a sandwich and she hasn't the energy to pick up a tray and it falls over and she doesn't have the energy to bend over and pick stuff and she can't bend over anyway.
No.
And she's still she's in a very peculiar place. She's very angry at the situation and angry at what could have happened and she just doesn't feel like herself.
Right.
But she still gets out of hospital.
Yeah, like the very next day. And she's not on oxygen, even though she's had a punctured lung. And her lungs are not functioning properly right now because one of them's punctured.
She's got home after a serious stab wound and a collapsed lung. And when Sarah checks in with her, Yasmin is quick to tell her that she and her family can get to fuck. Alia takes up residence on the couch and is disappointed to see that Yasmin and homeless Stu have close speed dial. She furiously tells them to get their arses back to work, otherwise the racists win.
Sarah, man,
Yeah, read the room.
I continue to find new ways to hate her.
What?
What a white lady thing to do. to go up to the brown people who have been injured by your nephew when they say, no, thank you, and then get huffy at them for refusing your help and your consideration. Like, how dare you? I'm just trying to be nice. How dare you treat me this way when I'm just trying to be nice? You know, and show you that not everybody in my family hates brown people. Some of my very best friends are brown people.
Right.
My husband hired 2 brown people, including you.
I can't be racist. My husband's Scottish.
That's what I say all the time.
And it's true. So the other half of this story then is the Max part of it. So it's early morning again, and Max is about to do a flip. He's stalked by Gail and David, who reckon that if he's worried about what people think, running away is just going to make it worse. He explains that Blake is
And
making
where
out...
is he going to go?
I know, exactly. Like Max was the one who inspired the stabbing. They bring a newly man-bunned Adam and Sarah round and explain the situation, and we find that Max has made hundreds of videos, and he describes the contents and the anti-Muslim messages. Adam becomes concerned that this could be incitement to hatred or encouraging terrorism, which carries a 10-year sentence.
Right, as it should.
Back at
Maybe
the law,
even longer.
Back at the law office, Adam has let his guard down as he speaks to Sarah about how much bother Max could be in and how it's all his own fault for making propaganda videos for the far-right thugs.
Right.
And anyway, Adam's read up on conflict of interest this week, and he says that he can't represent Max because Alia works in his office. Sarah hasn't read up on conflict of interest this week and insists that Adam helps because Max is her nephew. He points out that Dee Dee can't help either because she's pals with Alia, but he thinks that he might know somebody.
And all of this is overheard by Dee Dee,
Yes.
who is in the kitchen being very, very quiet,
Right.
rolling her eyes at the stupidity of white people, the caucasity of it all.
Oh. Gail and David are home watching the videos, but Gail can't stand to watch anymore. She wants to know where all this hate has come from. Max says that she wouldn't understand, but it started when Darian stole his place at school.
Which is not what happened.
That isn't what happened. Darian didn't do anything.
No, he just came to school.
Right.
That place was not being held for Max.
Nope.
It did not have Max's name on it.
And even if it had been, the fact that he gave a date rape drug to someone was
Intended
involved
for his teacher.
Done for upskirting, had assaulted his teacher, and all the other stuff would maybe give the school fair reason to say, "Do you know what, this isn't your place after all."
No.
But that isn't what happened.
No. And nobody calls him on this. Nobody says to him, Max, that's not what happened. What happened is you lost your place because you did all of these horrible things. Nobody says that to him.
No.
Nobody calls him on it. Listen, if your kid is being an asshole, the best thing the most loving thing you can do for your kid is tell them, you're being an asshole, cut it out.
David does try to do this, but he tries to do it by shouting at Max. And I don't think he's getting his message across because of that. We saw a better example of this in action a few weeks ago when
With
Shona
Shona.
was speaking to Lily.
Right.
And they had a proper conversation about
Right,
it.
and-
Max blames David for not listening.
Right.
Max isn't listening.
No.
But David isn't going out of his way to be listened to, I don't think.
And he's not saying point blank to him, no, you lost your place because of these other things.
Right.
He does not say that to him. He just shouts at him for again for the propaganda videos.
He shouts at him for saying things that David feels uncomfortable listening to.
Right.
That's what he's shouting at.
Yeah. Instead of saying to him, you're an asshole. Cut the shit.
There's a police knock at the door, and it's DS Blondie who's
Yay!
there to arrest Max for incitement to attempted murder. And it's so good to see DS Blondie. again.
Blondie, 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 Blondie.
It's so good. My
So
favourite
good.
cop. Without a doubt, my favourite cop.
Absolutely.
And as I was putting together that video and I was taking clips of all the scenes that she's been in over the past year, it just reminded me of just how good she is at being that cop.
Yeah.
It's great stuff. At the cop shop, Max's lawyer is asking for the details. Max says his rubbish life is to blame, which is awful because he was born in this country. David says being born in this country is not a superpower. I thought that was a good line.
It was.
Max says, well, it should be. While he's been interviewed, Max says that he's not racist, he just has racist views, but didn't want to hurt anyone. He saved lives in that other terror incident he was involved in the other
Right,
week.
yes. Yeah. I told them about this bomb that I knew was going to happen, weeks ago when I also got blown up by a bomb.
Yep. He's been involved in 3 terror incidents.
Right.
One when... Let's call the one where the bomb went off in the car
Yeah.
a failed terror attempt.
Yes.
The one in the Christmas market or the peace market.
Right.
And then this.
Yeah.
The common denominator in all these
It's Max.
is Max, right?
Yeah. He should be put away forever.
DS Blondie calls the language in these videos militaristic and gives them examples. Mac thinks that she thinks that he's stupid scum. He says he's not scum, he's British, and all of this is on Blake. DS Blondie thinks that this is a rather childish or naive way to look at things. Max conveniently forgets all the shitty things that he did to get kicked out of school and blames seeing his mum die when he was 9, and now he's been fending for himself.
Right.
And then he met Griff, and Griff told him that he wasn't worthless and he didn't feel alone.
Right. Yes.
It's quite chilling listening to that.
While David sits in the shadows saying, "What am I? Chopped liver?"
Right. But it was very chilling, just that this is how he sees his truth.
And
it's
he
so warped.
genuinely believes it. He has grown up in this loving, warm family with people who have done without to give him a good life, who have sacrificed for him. And he's acting like he grew up on the streets,
It's like he's all of a twist,
impoverished.
right?
It's so ridiculous.
Back at the law office, Dee Dee's angry when she hears Adam tell Max's lawyer about some of Max's history and demands to know if he approves of Max's actions. Adam obviously disapproves, but says that Max has had a tough life and deserves representation from someone. Tell that to Alia, says Dee Dee. And back in the police station, DS Blondie hasn't been swayed by anything Max has said, and when she comes back, it's to formally charge Max for incitement to attempted murder. And suddenly, Max isn't the cocky wee shite he was, and as he's led away, he begs David for help. But of course, David can do nothing.
Right.
And that is how we end this week's episode.
And also, David should do nothing because he has sat there and listened to this brat complain about his life and how he has had nobody to support and love him his whole life since his mom was stabbed. Why is there so much stabbing around the Platts? So many people in that family have been stabbed or were the stabbers or were around stabbings. It's shocking.
British knife culture.
Yeah, I suppose. You don't have as many guns as we do. So you have to...
But the ones we do have float. Which is handy because it means you can find them in the bath.
And I suppose y'all do enjoy a good drowning every once in a while as well.
We still got Gally with our rice. Etc.
Etc.
There was lots in this that made for difficult to watch scenes. I thought they did it pretty well. I thought they did the stabbing pretty well.
Yes.
The blood was...
There was actually blood.
But obviously, it was far too bright. But I think that was deliberate to make it not seem as horrible as it was.
But it was actually there. And that was nice. Because let's remember, Stephen bludgeoned a man to death and there was no blood.
The thing that I was kind of disappointed in was it is a superfluous character who did it again. We've complained that it's never the main character that's a racist. It's always just some guy that we've never seen before that does it. It's never the main guy that's homophobic. It's always just the guy we've never seen before. It's
a main character who encouraged this guy to do the stabbing.
And that's the difference. Yeah.
And it's this character's family who are bending over backwards to circle the wagons and protect one of their own to the detriment of the people of color on the street.
I wouldn't say that they were circling the wagons too much.
They are circling.
Nobody's making out that he's innocent.
Sarah is circling the wagons.
Yeah,
they are saying...
David isn't.
Gail is the only one who is saying, yes, these videos are to blame for the stabbing.
Yeah, but
David's
not saying that Max is a an innocent party in all this.
No, David is upset that he gets arrested for this and is saying that it is ridiculous that he's being arrested, that he did nothing wrong. David is disgusted by the videos, but David is trying to protect Max and saying, no, it's this kid Blake. It's not Max. David is excusing the videos.
I don't think
Sarah is excusing the videos.
I don't-
Adam is excusing the videos.
I don't think David has joined the dots from the videos to the stabbing. I think David is focusing on the stabbing, to which he thinks Max is innocent.
Right. And he's not. And if he was not Max's father, he would have connected those dots. And he is protecting Max while Alia is sitting there with a collapsed lung. You know, he's still not. And he was like this with the bombing as well. It's like, wake up. Your son's a terrorist.
Yeah, because the last time that he did dob him in and call the cops on him, that time Max was innocent.
Right.
Or something. I can't remember exactly what that was, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was that he was innocent of whatever it was. I can't even remember. But the Platt family is circling the wagons. The way Adam is blatantly talking on the phone to Max's lawyer right across from Dee Dee. Not even like going into the other room to have this conversation. Just right in front of her. Like, it's not a problem to say, oh yeah, that's really good. Really talk up the dead mom part. That should get him off. As if that's an okay thing to say.
Well, that's a defense lawyer position, isn't it?
But
because none of it's false.
Max's dead mother does not excuse his racism.
No, it doesn't. But a defense lawyer is there to test the limits of the law to get their client off.
Right.
And that's what everyone's entitled to.
But Adam is not his lawyer, and he shouldn't be having that conversation in front of Dee Dee.
No, and he does say that. He does say to Dee Dee, you're not involved in this, and I'm not really involved in this either.
Well, then he shouldn't be taking then he should not be taking that phone call.
That's probably true.
It is pitting a very specific group against another specific group. And this is actually good. Because this is the sort of thing that we were complaining about before, is that there's never an investment of the people of the street, the main characters, in taking sides here, and the white people on the street having to confront some of their own unconscious bias and become uncomfortable by it. And it kind of feels like David, that it does look like there is something inside David that is uncomfortable with all of this, where he's still defending Max, but he's uncomfortable with the fact that he's
hugely uncomfortable every time Max opens his mouth to say everything that he says basically in the police station.
And Gail has obviously had enough, but
Gail's seen the writing on the wall on this a while ago.
And Adam seems to also be, well, he's my nephew, so I have to excuse his racism, sort of thing. But he does seem uncomfortable with it. Sarah, on the other hand, is not uncomfortable with any of this at all, and is fully in Max's court. And it's just so infuriating for me that she is like this. But this is such that character to be the Karen of this family. You know, because she's the one who says to Adam, well, you've got to be able to do something. You've got to be able to find somebody to do this. And it's not even her kid. I don't think David has asked for any of this.
No. There's an instinct that no matter what, you protect the family.
Right.
And I think given what she and David have been through with their own dices with murder and dead bodies under patios and annexes and stuff.
Right.
That there's that instinct that's probably fairly near the surface for her.
Right.
It's not palatable.
No.
In the slightest. But
no. And now there's this extra layer of racism on top of it, because those other times that was not that did not play a part.
Right. But David has recognised the racism in it and accused Max of it. It doesn't get him anywhere doing
No.
it, but he knows what he's seeing, and he knows that that's not how he's been raised, and that's
Right.
not what David is.
Yeah. And I think there's some uncomfortableness there as well, because you think you are doing good. You think this is not how you are raising your kids. But there's always going to be another factor outside the house where other people have an influence on your kids that you have no control over. And that, I think, terrifies David, as it should terrify all parents, and leaves him feeling helpless.
No, it's in the movies that you watch, and it's the music that you listen to, and it's the books that you read, and
It's the company that you keep.
absolutely. And it has, as you get older, more and more sway, and what happens at home has less and less, to the extent that Max doesn't really recognise what everyone else does as being in the description of his home life as something that's completely alien to him.
Right.
That no one's ever stood up for him. No one's ever given him a leg up. He's always been the one that's had to fight for himself and on his own. It's like you're describing nothing that has been seen by
Anybody.
anyone, any third party who's looking in on this.
And it's got to be a gut punch to David sitting there, because he's probably thinking of all of those times that either he or Shona has said, right, nope, that's enough. We need to turn this kid in. This is the final straw. And then the other one talks that one down.
Yeah.
And he's got to be thinking, we really should have nipped this in the bud 3 incidents ago or 4 incidents ago.
Yeah.
You know,
Covering
and-
up the drugging was a mistake at the time,
Right.
and we thought that the extent of that mistake had been realised, and
Right.
we hadn't even touched the surface.
Right, because Max does not recognize any of that
No.
as them defending him or taking care of him. It has given him the excuse to see all of this as not his fault and not his responsibility.
I still think aspects of this have gone in a bit too quickly, and it feels like a little bit rushed, but this direction that it's taken, I wonder why Alia is just the unluckiest person on the street getting blown up and getting stabbed, basically.
Well, it was just her turn.
In the
They were
month.
running out of women to...
It couldn't be Summer, I guess. She was
Right.
busy.
Summer's already... And also, she's not brown. It had to be a brown woman.
Yeah.
Yasmin's been through enough. Asha's been through enough. It was Alia's turn.
Well, she was close to Maria. That part of
Right.
it does make sense.
Yeah. As much as I have grown to like Maria, though, I don't know if I would have put myself between a knife
Oh, God,
and
no.
Maria. I would have maybe pushed her aside, but I would have been faster about it than Alia was. Or I would have tried to.
That was another thing that was interesting, was the take that this couldn't be a racist attack because it was meant for Maria.
Right. Ignoring the fact that the only reason why this guy wanted to stab Maria is
Right,
because
yeah.
Maria was trying to set up an immigration center.
Again, it's the acceptance of stop asking why.
Right. Yeah. And
All
the
right.
unconscious bias.
All right, that was the week that was Coronation Street then. What was your moment of the week, Helen? Tell me.
What was my moment of the week?
I know what my moment of the week was.
What is your moment of the week?
Maybe I will agree with you.
It's Fiz and the blonde wig.
I was thinking it, but I was afraid to say it.
That was just so funny.
It was so funny when she turns, and I mean, I knew it was coming.
Mm-hmm.
I knew as soon as I saw that
Wig.
blonde wig,
You knew it was a wig.
which was obviously a wig.
Right.
I was like, "Oh my god, that's Fiz! This is going to be hilarious."
It was Fiz and the wig and Roy
Roy's extreme uncomfortableness.
just so uncomfortable at the discussions.
So uncomfortable, and yet Evelyn is just still sitting there asking them questions about this whole thing. Yeah, it was either going to be that or the floating corpse.
It was. It's between those two things, but I think there's more to the wig. Or is
Yeah.
it? Or is it the floating teddy?
That was funny. That was funny. I did enjoy that.
I think it's Fiz and the wig.
Okay, Fiz in the wig.
Fiz and the wig is our
Moment of the week.
Your boring moment of the week.
Oh, God, is it Daniel or is it Chesney?
It's Chesney's dream about cheeseburgers. Come on.
Okay, fine.
That is our
Boring moment of the week.
A boring moment of the week.
Well, I think that about wraps it up then.
Yes.
If you've ever had a dream about cheeseburgers, please
Keep it
let us
to
know.
yourself.
Let us know how your franchise efforts went. You can get in touch with us to tell us that at thetalkofthestreet@gmail.com on email, and we're at Corrie Podcast on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram and Mastodon. I haven't updated that Mastodon in the longest time. You can shout me and Helen a coffee by heading to ko-fi.com. That's ko-fi.com/thetalkofthestreet and get a free book. Check out the clicky section of voggle.co.uk for links to our merch store and YouTube channel. And if you're so inclined, please leave a rating and a review on the iTunes or your podcast provider of choice. Thanks for making it to the end of another episode.
Thank you.
And we will be back next week with more
Talk of the Street.
Talk of the Street.
Bye.
Cheerio.